Good morning, Year 6, and welcome to a short introduction to the story writing that we've been working on this week based upon the video of Alma. First of all, to say I thought it was really great interacting with you yesterday. A real shame that we didn't have 100% turnout, so hopefully the next time we meet, which will be on Thursday, for mathematics, hopefully we'll get 100% turnout. It's really important, especially as we prepare to come back into school together. So what we did yesterday was started to think a bit more about the story map and how to sequence the plot line. The plot line that's told in video, and we need to take that plot line and tell it in our own words, in the form of a narrative piece of writing. And I also, with your help, modeled how to find the suspense points, as I called them, the points at which we felt suspense or tension as we watched the story. And I'm going to say a little bit more about that, because on Thursday we can see how can writing convey the feelings associated with the story. So clearly my feeling when I watched it was of suspense and tension. It is a kind of mysterious thriller type story, and in the writing we need to convey those feelings both for Alma, who is the central character, and character is incredibly important in the story, and for the reader. So if we want to create an emotional connection, if we want to change people's state of being almost, maybe you do want to make them gasp or their heart rate increase, or have that feeling of no, don't do that, Alma. And we need to convey that somehow. So in the live lesson yesterday, we looked at the planning format that I had chosen to use. Just to be absolutely clear, I am not in any way asking you to redo your planning. You may add to it, but I'm not asking you to create a planning like this, because the way I set it out for you was to break it down. And we, on the first day, we really were focusing on the setting. So in my planning format, the setting is here. And I've done one example, which is some notes around the first scene. Snow-covered rooftops dapple the scene with dancing snowflake rainbows, wind fluted by the buildings. And I would develop that and interlink it and weave it within my first part of my story. We then moved on and looked at character. And this is very important, because the character is the central point of the story. It's the movement of the character through the plot that's really important to us, and it's the connection that we have with that character, the fact that we care for her on some level, that makes the story work. So in the beginning, I've got out alone, the joyful figure of a young girl contentedly creating a pattern with her imprints in the snow. She skipped with excitement. So that reminds me of the feeling of this point. And here, I have no idea who she is. So at this point, it's fair to say I don't have a connection with the character of Alma, but I might be intrigued. In keeping with a kind of boxing up tradition that I have, I've just called it the main character. But we know the main character here is Alma. So the main character skipped down the lane, making footprints in the snow. Along the lane is an ominous looking shop window in the same lane. So she as she goes along, there's the shop window, and we did that together. We then moved on to this sequence, and then I've added one more. So let's just go through those. So the main character writes her name on a chalkboard. Her name is Alma, and in this instance I've written it with a small a, and perhaps for completeness should have some inverted commas here. At other points in the story I'm going to follow writing convention and write her name as a proper noun with a capital A. Behind her is the reflection of Alma, so again maybe we inverted commas, in the shop window. Then a doll appears. Main character is visually unaware of its appearance. Now, what I mean by that is not its appearance as in what it looks like, but the fact it's even there. So at this point, she doesn't know. And then I thought, so I've added this one since we worked together. The main character senses that she's being watched. You know that feeling that someone is watching you, even though at that point you haven't seen them, you haven't checked that they are, but you kind of get that little feeling inside of you. So she senses that she's being watched. I've used watched very deliberately. A doll, as we go on to find out, wouldn't normally watch, but that's part of the mystery here. Because if it were just an inanimate doll, I don't think she would get this sense. So she senses she's being watched. She turns and rotates to her right. In the foreground, so that's a full stop there. In the foreground, a doll-like figurine. So I'm a bit ambiguous about what it is at the moment. Later, I think I just really settle on the idea that it's a doll. In some ways, the doll doesn't quite describe it, but I'm thinking we'll call it a doll and develop the description later on. So the main character wipes the frosted glass with her mitten, and face to face with the doll, she gasps as it resembles, or at its resemblance to herself. So we noted that the doll looked a lot like her, particularly in how she's dressed. I don't think facially it was exactly the same, because at this point the doll is fairly expressionless, and that could be a really good kind of mysterious, intriguing line for you to take, that deadpan, lifeless look. So down here, this was we were rehearsed writing, of course, but it was really about the suspense and the tension. So you've previously rehearsed some writing for your plot line, but this was my focus, and this is your focus for today. So each point, I think, with your help, was a suspense point. So from a distance, the window looks like the face of a sharp-toothed monster. So that's what we decided. And then what I've done is I've added some notes, what effect I'm hoping to have on the reader. The reader has a question raised in their minds as this everyday town takes on a mysterious feel. So I want to already start sort of ramping up this idea of all is not as calm and snowy and tranquil as we first imagined. And then we'll go through these ones, which I have done as well. So we did start this one together. Suddenly, as if from nowhere, a doll appears in the window. The doll's appearance is identical to Alma. Now, identical was the idea you threw out as a group and agreed on. I'm in two minds. It's wearing identical clothes. The face looks familiar, however, the face is lifeless. It's not her at this stage. And for the reader, the reader is left confused by the sudden feelings of tension. So we had this, oh, it's all nice and snowy, it's just a town skipping along. Oh, there's a bit of a mysterious shop window, but you know, could just be a kind of intriguing shop of knickknacks. But now we're wanting to build up tension. Why? What is it about this doll that's going to create that? And then I've added this one. So looming over Alma, eyes wide, not alive, and staring motionlessly ahead. Alma is aghast, confused, and apprehensive. The apparent disappearance of the figure, maybe, intrigues her. So just a little bit of a change from the doll. And here, what's happening? What am I trying to do when I expand on this for the reader? The reader is alerted to tense uneasiness. So that's uneasiness in themselves as the reader, but tense uneasiness within Alma as well. So spend some time looking at that, and you have this. So you've done this. You might want to improve, but otherwise you've done it. You've done that. You've done that. So this is the key part of today. So let's explore that just a little bit more. So what is suspense? Well, suspense I've defined as a state of mental uncertainty. So in your mind, you're a bit uncertain, you're anxious, you're being undecided, doubtful. So it could be any one or a combination of those. And in a video like Alma, suspense is the anticipation of the outcome of a plot or of the solution to an uncertainty, puzzle, or mystery. So what is going to happen next? Am I going to find out what happens? Is this going to be explained? Well, in many ways, it remains a slight mystery to the end, other than the fact that as a watcher, you created meaning for this story. And as a writer, you want to lead your reader to a similar outcome, that they can make some personal judgment, some inference about what has happened to Alma and why has this doll now got eyes that move. And the other point is we care. In particular, we care about what the events that are unfolding affect the character, because we've created a connection with that character, some sympathy, maybe some empathy, because she has been the constant throughout the story, right from the beginning. So without the visual media of the video and the oral clues, the sort of clues that you hear of sound and musical placement, and to do that you could watch the video without the sound. Writers need to create suspense with words. So as a writer, what are you going to do? So pause the video and have a think. How are you going to take your planned suspense points and create a story full of suspense and tension? I'm going to give you my views, and you can adapt these as you wish. So creating suspense and tension for the reader. So as a writer, what can you do? So if suspense is a state of mental uncertainty and anxiety of being undecided or being doubtful, this is what I think you could do. You will have to convey those feelings from up here in your writing. Being uncertain, so I picked that one, or doubtful, pick that one as well, requires you to describe. So what you won't do is Alma was uncertain, end. Alma was full of doubt, end. What you want to do, and it's absolutely fine to mention these words, but you need to expand on them. And the way you can do that, I'm suggesting, is you describe expression, so character expression, movement, and mood. So even in this still here, the eyes, the mouth, you know, in the video, the way in which she looks in, steps back, looks down at herself, looks back into the window, all creates that. And in here, if we're trying to create this anticipation of within the plot line, you will need to describe the events of mystery. Okay, so there are plenty of them, and you would have plotted them, but here's one. Alma looks through the window, sees this doll. Similar hat, similar body warmer, jumper, mittens, trousers, shoes, hair color. Face, not really. A little bit lifeless. So she sees that. Now she looks away. When she looks back, it's gone. That's the mystery. Lastly, we care about the character. So help your reader know Alma. Help them understand right from the beginning. And the easiest way to do this is to tell your story from her perspective. So really your story is a story of Alma's journey and Alma's interaction and Alma's feelings and Alma's reactions, and you need to therefore do that in every paragraph. And I'm going to suggest to you that as soon as we see her, we don't know who it is, and at that point we wouldn't even know if it was going to be the main character. But as soon as, for me, as soon as she did this, she became not just a kind of insignificant, you know, maybe not even going to be there for very long character skipping along the road, to being Alma. And the connection between her name, the name of the film, and the fact that now I have a name for this little girl changed everything for me. So from there, I start to have some empathy, some sympathy, and I care now what's going to happen to her. So pause the video and have a reflect on that. So finally today, what you're going to do is follow the main theme, which is how can writing convey the feelings associated with this story. And the feelings we've decided are suspense, and those are for both Alma and for the reader. So you need to develop your plan so you've plotted the points of suspense, just as we did together, and I've developed that a bit more and shared it with you today. And then you need some rehearsal about how you're going to convey, which means to project or describe, how you're going to get that across to your reader, those images that you've noted in writing, because that's all you have now. So you don't have a video, and you don't have music, and you don't have sound effects, but you have words. So do that just as I modeled yesterday, and I've shown you today. Spend about an hour on this lesson. So what that means is, for many of you, you'll be ready to write your draft story within this session. To make a start on it, certainly. You want to make sure that you're prepared to write a one-page, multi-paragraphed flash fiction story. And here are some options. And I will just read through them so you're clear. So the first one is really the base option. Write the story that you viewed on the video. So simple. Write the story and extend it by revealing the owner of the shop in some way. So that's option 2. So these are, you don't build up. You do that one, or this one, which is create a beginning that helps tell the story of why this little girl is in town, in the snow and wind, on her own. And then write the story you viewed on the film. So you've got like a little sort of introductory or prologue paragraph there, which wouldn't need to be necessarily long if you choose your words and sentence structure carefully. Or lastly, this is another option, is write the story you have viewed and then create a short, tantalizing ending in which a different child looks through the very same window Alma did at the start of your story. So when you have finished telling the story from the video, you do that short ending. And what you're really doing is creating a cycle of storytelling, a kind of moment, a ... moment, a cliff edge or cliffhanger, that type of thing. I really like this story, Year 6, and I'm sure you can make a really brilliant job of it. And I've very deliberately put draft because I'm giving a lot of thought about how we can move from where you are, remote learning at home, to being together in the classroom. And I'd be very keen to take this draft, work with you for a little bit longer, and create a published story. But I'll tell you a little bit more about that once I've had some more time to think about it. Till then, enjoy your English, do your best. Remember, you can rewind the video, pause it, you can go back to any of the previous lessons, and take care.